All right, we'll count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the man of the hour. I feel like saying thank you and goodbye. Because I don't know that I can really, what kind of job I can do, thanking you all for taking the time to come here this afternoon, especially to my family and to my closest friends and all of you worked with me during the 17 years that I served in Parliament. Some people think it was just the premiership, but it was 17 long years, including 5 in Siberia. That's the other name for opposition. I often tell people that, they're two different worlds.
Come on.
When you they say the opposition has its say and the government has its way. That is the truth. And so one must learn to protect what one has. Now, let me just, as I said, there's work to be done. People have to do things, and I have to try to cover some bases. First of all, let me thank the Premier for taking the time to be here, and to thank the former Premier, John Swan, who always supports me in whatever I'm doing. And I want to publicly our relationship is really an example, I think, pardon the personal reference, but I think our relationship reflects what could happen in where people can agree to disagree and also agree to agree. And that's why I treasure my friendship with you, sir. The artwork, it speaks for itself. But let me tell you a story. My life is never I was asked to get my portrait in order. This was 2 years plus ago. And I said, I don't know who I can get to do it, because I didn't like, quite honestly, what I saw in the cabinet office. Why didn't I like it? Not just because I wanted to be contrary, but I saw pictures of people who were not yet dead look dead. And I said, no need to push that envelope. We can do that later. But as long as I'm living, my artwork is going to reflect that I'm living. So I talked to the artist because I wanted to be respectful of the artist who had done it before. And Mr. Poulin, I think his name is. And I called him up and I said, listen, I know you've done all the previous portraits, or most of them, and I'm not going to necessarily break tradition. However, I have a couple of things I want to tell you. Sir, your pictures don't seem to distinguish between the living and the non-living. Yeah, I told him. I said, and secondly, well, that was when I was real busy, so I had to talk fast and get it in. And I said, the second thing is, I'm not sure that you are comfortable painting people of color. Yeah, it's just real. And so he said, well, can we talk about it? I said, yeah, because if you can make an adjustment, maybe we can work something out. We were unable to work anything out. Fast forward, a friend of mine recommended an artist in Jamaica. And as soon as the name was called, I recognized it. And I said, wow, I didn't realize that guy was still, he was a prominent artist decades ago. Is he still painting? Yes. So I said, okay, I'll talk to him. So went to Jamaica, saw him, And on the morning that I was leaving to go to see him, two-hour car ride from Kingston, to see him at his gallery in St. Thomas, a friend of mine whose advice I will always treasure from that day forward, called me and said, "Ewart, I hear you're going out to so-and-so's gallery to get your portrait done." He said, "Well, let me tell you something that nobody else is probably going to tell you. That fella is blinder than he thinks." He said he's losing his sight rapidly. So I said, "Okay, but I'm here now." I said, I appreciate that, but, I think I'll go ahead and give him a shot. So much for that. 2 efforts later, it was clear that his sight had deteriorated terribly. And I said, "You know what, let me keep looking around." I was on the internet, I was calling people in Washington and Los Angeles, asking for a reference. I then said, let me just take a break and stop rushing this thing and see what happens. Lo and behold, I get an email. From J. Keynes. And it says, "Dear Dr. Brown, I am a young comedian and I am an artist. I would like to have an opportunity to paint your portrait." So that turned me on. So the first thing, I'm going to put the ball back in his court. So I reached him and I said, "Are you ready to do it? Can you really do it? Can I see some of your work, etc.? "Yes, no problem." But didn't see any portraits. And I said, "Okay, go for it. Go for it." And he came down to the cabinet and he looked around at what was here, because I wanted him to see what was here. And I told him, I said, "Jay, there are certain dimensions that you have to observe. They have a certain size. And Dr. Brown can't go in there with a portrait that's bigger than the other people's portrait. That's just not going to happen. So you must comply." Well, it's difficult to tell an artist what to do. So one day he comes to the house, he has the art. I'm anxious to see it. And let me tell you, when he pulled the drape off that thing, I was just amazed at what he had done. That wasn't this one. It was too big. I said, "Jay, you have to do it again." He said, "What?" I said, "I told you. They have dimensions. And we have to stay within those lines." So long story short, he went back to work. He was in England. We were communicating by email. And he started over again. And the second one is as good as the first. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, a hand for young people. And believe me, I know you all think that I preach a lot and that I try to send a message with everything I do and say. But I really was not trying to create a new pathway necessarily. I just wanted the portrait done. A young Bermudian came, and he happened to do a masterful job. What this might serve to do is that he will be recognized for the quality of his work, and maybe other premiers will turn to him for their portrait. And Premier Dunkley says he's not going to use a blind guy. All right, well, I paved the way. That's my job. I paved the way. I work with the blind guy. Now we have a young Bermudian who can see very well. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, especially to the team at Cabinet and all of my colleagues that I work with, it was a very active and, in my opinion, exciting time. Some people would call it filled with controversy and I say, what's the problem? That keeps the public interested, keeps the public informed, and in general, I think it's good for people to have a nice injection of controversy into public life or public office. I think it's good. And so I wanted to thank all of you for the time that we spent together. I want to thank you for your patience with me. I knew when I came into cabinet how impatient I was, and I tried to work on it. But all the time I remembered in the back of my mind that it is not patience that is a virtue, it's impatience that is a virtue in politics. If you want to get something done and you are a very patient person, good luck. The system is designed to be slow. And the system can also be used and abused such that it is very slow and never achieves. On the other hand, there are fast tracks within the system, and you can see that they can be used. And so I want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all of the support and love that you gave me during the time that I was in cabinet and in politics in general. I want to thank my family again for being supportive, for listening when you probably were not really listening. But thank you anyway. And let me tell you that I never looked at it as 4 years of hard work. I looked at it as 48 months of action.